What's up, everyone? Today I want to make a video discussing the two types of intimacy in relationships, so let's get right into it. So we'll be discussing the difference between validational intimacy and transactional intimacy. So this is a big reason why I talk about in many of my videos the importance of looks maxing and why I'm so against, beta bucksing or using other compensation mechanisms like your financial resources, like your status, like your clout, in order to get relationships. Because as you'll see with the explanation of validational intimacy and transactional intimacy, is that these two can end up leading you down different paths and types of intimacy and relationships. It's not going to be the same type of desire you get for something that's more genetics and looks based versus something that's more of a beta provider type of attraction mechanism, like money, for example. But what is validational intimacy? Well, validational intimacy is going to be more based on genuine desire and when a woman truly wants to have intimacy with you. And this is typically occurring when a girl sees you as a Chad and she's giving you that Chad treatment because she's demonstrating strong choosing signals for your actual genetics. And this is the type of intimacy that women fantasize about in movies, TV shows, and novels. And you'll see it in something like 50 Shades of Grey, for example. And, to really explain how this would feel from like a woman's perspective is, with men being the more, dominant sex, this is going to be a much more validating experience for women when they are actually able to get this guy that they view as alpha, for example, and that they view as their best option, and someone that they have truly, a genuine desire for to be with in their actual genetics. This is, going to give them a sense of power and validation, just being able to share such a, intimate moment with you in such a intimate setting. And to really explain what this feels like is it's really when you almost make eye contact and you already know that the girl wants to be with you. She already has this genuine desire for you. They're being more blatant about their desire to have a relationship with you. Things move a lot faster. They're making comments to you, and they're usually the ones, initiating the intimacy. When you're in a relationship where the girl is, extremely jealous and has a lot of desire for you, typically that's going to be a relationship where intimacy is a lot more validational for the girl. And this is why, the beginning of relationships can be so addicting to so many people, is because when you are pursuing women for those first few times and those first few months, maybe that first year or so, the relationship is so much more based on validation from the girl's perspective, because she's really trying to work for your commitment, engagement, time, and attention. And therefore, the relationship and the intimacy is going to be a lot more, validational based for her. And it's going to give her that power that she's really searching for to get from a man. Whereas if we compare this with transactional intimacy, it's going to be much more different, because this is typically when the girl is in charge of a relationship, whereas if it's a validational based intimacy, the guy is the one who's typically in charge. And transactional intimacy is really just when the intimacy is sort of given from the girl in return for something. And, this sort of screams that, red flag of beta bucksing. And, if you didn't have that money, if you didn't have that clout or that, sort of currency that you're trading to be in a relationship with a girl, that if that goes away, like, the intimacy is going to go away too, because that was the main mechanism. And this is really demonstrated in those beta provider type of relationships. In prostitution, for example, prostitution is going to be the most blatant form of this, because it's just a simple exchange of money. And as you know, as I can assume in prostitution, there's no real genuine desire, because they already got the money, they already received the currency, and therefore they're only giving you the relationship, those minutes in return for that money. So once they've already received what they wanted from the relationship, the intimacy is not going to be passionate at all. Whereas when a girl's actually getting the intimacy from you in a validational type of relationship, the actual intimacy is going to be much more passionate, because that's the reward for them, is actually being with you, getting your attention from them, from the guy. So this is typically seen in relationships where there's a lot more gesture maxing, or what you'll see in long-term relationships where marriage is on the table and it's been years, and therefore they just don't have as much desire for you. And therefore, when they're giving you intimacy, it may be on your birthday, it may be on Christmas, it may be if you did a really good job with household chores and you took the trash out really well last weekend, and you have to earn it. And it's sort of like you're negotiating this desire for, if I do this, maybe she'll finally give me intimacy. And that's really what transactional intimacy is. It's when, okay, this guy did this for me. Okay, so now I'm going to give him, some time in the bedroom. And as you can see in this, if they're only doing this as a means of rewarding you for your behavior, it's going to be nowhere near the same type of intensity as if they were giving you that intimacy as a way to try to retain your attention and retain the relationship with you. So this is why I'm so against gesture maxing, using all these other compensation sort of attraction triggers, because they're not going to yield the same type of relationship. And really, this kind of answers the question of should you be with a girl who's potentially a 6, who is much more attractive, but you have to gesture max in order to get any type of intimacy or attention from her, whereas you could then be with a 4.5 who's going to be basically in your sort of frame per se, and she's the one pursuing you, and she's the one who's perceiving you as above her looks match, and she has that attachment anxiety, being in a relationship with you. So that kind of answers the question as why dating your looks match is also super important. And obviously, I believe you could still gain validational intimacy if you're extremely high status, if you have a ton of wealth. But the more you're using these mechanisms to actually get relationships, the less attractive you actually are. It's going to be harder to get that validational intimacy. Because if you're below a certain looks level, I truly believe that it's impossible for someone to have desire for you at all. And so transactional intimacy is going to be nowhere near the same type of experience, emotion, intensity as something that's validational, where they're the one pursuing you. So that's sort of the explanation of these two topics. So I'll catch you guys in the next video, and thanks for watching.